everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam Smith, and today, very excited to be diving into Harmonies once again. If you haven't checked out my game overview and gameplay video, it will show you everything you need in order to get this game set up for solo play, as well as the rules involved. Definitely check that video out first. It'll be in the top right-hand corner right now, and this video is going to dive into another full solo play for you to enjoy. All the rules necessary for solo play are found on page 11, and again, if you watch my prior video, all of this is explained, but I will show you the score section here where the aim of solo mode is to accumulate as many suns as possible, and you do this by accumulating points at the end of the game, checking how many suns you get, and again, depending on which side of the board you're playing on, you'll gain suns. So I am playing on the A side, so I have the potential for one right there, and then if you're using Nature's Spirit, you can also have differences in the number of suns. I'm choosing not to use Nature's Spirit, so because of that, 2 suns added into the equation. The end of game can trigger in 2 different ways. The first way is when the pouch is completely empty when you need to refill the central board. This is the central board right here, so when we set up, we place 3 of these terrain elements into each of the 3 spaces. The second way the game can end is if there's 2 or less spaces on your personal dashboard, and as you're filling them in with terrain and adding animals to it in order to do combinations to score lots of points, hopefully as many as possible, you'll get to a point where there's only 2 or less spaces, and at that point, that's also an end of game trigger. If either of these 2 things happen, that is going to get us into the scoring section of the game. This reference card is a handy thing to keep nearby, and it'll tell you exactly how you can score additional points as you're placing different environmental tokens on your personal board. The interpretation of this reference card, as well as examples, can be found in my prior game overview and gameplay video. So from the initial setup here, we have a number of pools we can draw from in order to get tokens into our hand to start off. The mandatory action you have to do on your turn is to take and place tokens, and then the optional actions you have is to take 1 animal card or to place 1 animal cube. Now, you can only take 1 animal card once per turn, but you can place as many animal cubes as you can possibly pull off. I'll start things off by taking this pool right here. I've chosen to place all 3 of my tokens on the game board. You have to, at a minimum, place 1 when you choose to take one of the pools. So I could have had these 3 here and just put 1 into play. After that, you can go for anything optional. So you can go take an animal card or place an animal cube if you want before you go to the next token. But in my case, I want to put all 3 out. I'm choosing to take an animal card now, and I've chosen the penguins. As soon as you do, you place markers in all the positions on the top right-hand corner of the card. Now at this point in time, unfortunately, I don't have this setup right here, so I can't place any animals onto a respective environment token in order to net me some points at the moment, so we're going to end off our turn right here. Now it is worth mentioning that if you do not take an animal card on your turn, in the solo mode you can absolutely discard one of the 3 from the top row in order for a new one to come in. At the end of your turn, all of the tokens on the dashboard up here that were not selected go back to the box. So end of turn, I grabbed a new animal card to fill in the slot I took, and also all the pools have been refreshed, pulling from the bag. So you can see how the endgame trigger is going to trigger, because every turn that I go through, I'm pulling out a new 9 tokens to go on this board, and the ones I don't select go in the discard area or in the box. They do not go back inside the bag, so the bag is constantly being depleted. Right off the bat, I'm eyeing a certain pool of tokens that I think is going to work real nice. Used 2 of my tokens so far, 1 over here. Putting 2 planes beside each other automatically is going to net me 5 points. That's the cool thing about planes, is that you kind of want to keep them in groups of 2, and you don't really want to clump them up in large quantities, so a good place to put it over there. And then the other water on this side will allow me to place an animal cube because it matches what we have over here. Placing an animal cube is an optional action that can happen multiple times if you can pull it off, but in this case, I can only do it once, and you start with a cube at the bottom of the card first and work your way up to the highest point value. I'm going to place my final token right here in the middle as I'm looking at going after the koalas up here. I've taken an animal card, placed all the cubes on it, and there's nothing else I can do for my turn, so we're going to end it off right here. Ending off the turn, we'll replenish the pools and get a new animal card. Now it's worth mentioning at the very top of your personal board, you'll see little paw prints. There's 4 of them, letting you know you can only have 4 actual animal cards above your dashboard that you're working towards. But strategically, it's always a good idea to take a look at this top row here, because you might be building a certain pattern that actually has you being able to resolve one of those animal cards up top very quickly if you obtain it in the future. Let's go with these 3 right here. I'm going to aim to get some more places for the penguins to live. So I've gone ahead and created another one of these locations. Again, the pattern has to match, but the orientation does not. So you can see this works right here. Now, even though this one netted me 10 points, which is pretty good, the downside is this water piece here ends up being cut off, which means it can't be part of a major linked chain of water to get some big time points. So I'm keeping this side open. Now I'm slowly working towards the koala's habitat, so I've got myself some dirt here placed in order to get a tree going in the future. That's going to be the end of another turn for me, and I really don't want to take any animal card during my turn, which is a-okay. I can choose to discard a card from the top row of 3 right now, and we're also going to replenish this pool area as well. A new animal card's come out. It is a bunch of ladybugs, a whole bunch, 5 if we choose to take that animal card, and a whole bunch of water over here. I'm going to take these 3 right here. Eyeing that ladybug card, I'm going to place a tree next to these 2 planes down here. Let's find some of these ladybugs at home. We managed to get 2 of them right on the board right away. We'll go ahead and stack one of the trees on top of the dirt, the brown colored token, which is going to create a tree for 3 points. But on top of that, it's also going to allow me to put a koala in that tree. Not too bad. We got 3 animals placed this turn. Pretty good. We're going to go ahead and place the water in as well to start making that long stream. Now remember, in terms of how you actually calculate your points for your stream or your water all in a row, is going to take the shortest path across all of the different water tokens. So if I was to have, say, 5 of them all the way up the side here, it would ignore the one that ducks in one. That's another turn in the books. Let's replenish. I can tell you right at the gates that the panther one there is certainly of interest because I'm already building out trees for the koalas. Tough call on this one. I'm going to choose to go with these 3. I built another tree, which means another koala can find a home. Now the tricky thing with mountains is that they're worth points based on how high they are, but they're only worth points if they're adjacent to another mountain. So even though I have 2 mountains in here and they're only at the level 1, they're still going to net me 1 point each because they are connected together. That's why that chain link is there. If I just place this off by itself and isolate it, it's going to be worth 0 points. Whether this is a good decision or not remains to be seen, but I'll place a mountain up in the top right-hand corner. You have to place all of the tokens you take from the pool when you do. Now the panther could turn out really nice for us in the future, but for now I'm going to leave him up in that top row. I'm not taking any animals, so we can discard another one I'm not building towards. We got some bumblebees in the equation. They need a tree to be created next to a bunch of planes, which is something I could potentially build towards, but it's not exactly working out 100% right now. But looking at the different options in the pools, I think I'm going to probably go towards this one. I should be able to make good use of each of these 3 tokens. So we'll start by building another tree for another koala. We've almost got all the koalas in trees. I've left 1 space available for that last one. I'll use the last plains token next to the tree to place a ladybug in the plains location. Not a bad turn overall, and as you can see, I now have 2 trees side by side. In the panther one, if I can just get a plains next to it, which I could have actually just done with the prior one, but I wanted to work towards getting this one out of the way, I could take this one and get some quick wins, but I'm going to have to make sure the angles work out, and of course, as I'm building out other things, it might actually interrupt that plan. So the panther, even though it sounds like a good idea, might not be the best. Going into this refresh, we're going to lose the 6 tokens over here as usual. We're also going to go ahead and decide to discard the raccoons on the far right-hand side. We have an interesting mix of tokens here to choose from, and we also look like we have a gecko or lizard that's cropped into the equation. Let's go with these tokens right here and see what we can pull off with them. I decided to place another water one here, building out this, giving me some extra points there. And also this building is in place, but it's not worth anything yet. We need to ensure we have at least 3 different colors, including red, that actually can be a part of it, around the exterior of the building. So for instance, right now we have 2 different colors, the yellow and the gray. We could have a red fall in this location, a green or blue in either of these 2, and that will give us the 5 points for the building. Now, another strategy I could have done, but it would have actually broken up my attempt here at creating a long water stream, is to place the mountain right here and a water on the other side. That would have allowed me to connect here and get the 16 points for the penguins, but I'm not worried about that. We can pull that off, I think, a little bit later on. This turn is over. Let's go ahead and discard the lizard gecko there on the far right. I don't think I'm going to build towards that one, and the rest gets replenished. Very interesting indeed, and it looks like the one on the far right that just came in brand new also isn't really going to work well for me. Now, as of right now, in terms of free places left on my game board, I only have a total of 6. So I got to be careful here because once I have 2 or less, the end game is going to trigger, and I really want to try and get that koala out, the last penguin out, and it'd be amazing if I could pull off getting some points for the bees up here. You only need to have 2 trees and get a bunch of these planes around it to get up to 18 points, which would be huge. Except now that I look at things, it's not going to make sense to go for the bees because they go for the exact same position the koala would, and the koala guarantees me 15 points, whereas this one will only net me 8 for the first one, and then I have to do a second one to get that 18 points, which is probably not going to happen. So again, we should probably focus on what we have going here. A very tough decision indeed. I'm going to go ahead with these 3 and see what I can pull off. This is quite tough. I placed the water at the end here, bringing this up to a total of 8 points for this water stream. We put the building here because there's 3 around it, which is perfect. So that's good news. And also it's going to complete this one too because there's 3 different colors around it. So that works nicely. But I got to get it up to the higher point for it to be a building. It needs to be too high. So I need to have on the very top another red at some point. I've got 4 empty spaces remaining, and the mountain, you're probably wondering where that went. I chose to place it on top over here. It's not going to count for any points though because it's not connected to any other mountain, so it'll be all isolated by itself. Let's refresh one more time. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the far right one, hoping for something that aligns really nicely with what we got going on and get some more tokens. Squirrels have entered the fray, but I'm still focused on really trying to get the high value points off of the cards I have right now, and we got some new tokens to look at. I'm going to choose to go with these 3 right here. I think I can make it work so that I don't actually push to an endgame trigger for this turn. The mountain token went on the very top of the mountains I got in the top right, which does absolutely nothing because they're not connected to another mountain. So even though it's 3 high, which is the highest it can go for 7 points, it's not linked, so I don't get the points at all. I'm just hiding those tokens over there so I can avoid pushing myself towards an endgame trigger. I placed 1 water here to connect my wonderful water stream to 5 now, which gets us up to a total of 11 points there, which is good. And also built fully up my building, so now I get a 5 points on that building as well. Unfortunately, I've been limited by the tokens coming into the pools here. They haven't really lined up with the cards that I've currently got, or even the ones above to even bother going after them. We're all done with replenishing, and we actually got one up here that's quite interesting, frogs, and we can actually place frogs into the water next to a number of trees, which is really good. I only have 1 available spot where that could happen, but man, if that had to come earlier in the game, I probably would have worked towards that one. Let's select what will be our last pool. I'm going to go with this one right here. I was able to pull off my final tree there, and that's going to allow me to put the koala in that position. At this point, I'm going to choose to take the animal card up here, and I do actually have 1 spot where a frog can go for just 2 points, which is right here. See, that's one of those situations where you wish that you happen to have had just a single tree at the lower level down here so that you could place frogs in like 4 positions, for example. We've reached one of the endgame triggers, having 2 or less spaces on our personal board, so we now move into scoring. Now it's time to tally up our points. We'll take one of the columns from the scoring pad here and start with the trees and work our way down the left-hand side. Then we'll go through the right-hand side. Now you get points for trees being standalone. They don't have to be clumped up together in any way, shape, or form, but the height of them is what matters. So we have 2 trees on level number 1. In other words, there's just 1 token there. So each of those will net me a point each. So that's 2 points. And then we have 4 trees at level 2, which means we get 3 points for each of them. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Next up is the mountains, and the one in the top right-hand corner was the highest mountain, which would have counted for 7 if another mountain was beside it. Because it's not linked to another mountain, it counts for absolutely nothing, but these 2 at the lower levels here, they are going to provide me with a point each. Next up are the plains, and it's all about groups of 2. That's going to net me 5 points, and I only have 1 of those. For buildings, we have 2 legitimate buildings with 3 different colors surrounding them, so we get 5 points for each of them. And for water, we're looking for our shortest route. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a total of 11 points. We got 42 points there in the left-hand column. Moving to the right-hand column, we look at the animal cards, and we look at the highest value that's uncovered, and that's how many points we get for that card. So for the penguins, it's 10, frogs is 2, and ladybugs, it's 8. And of course, we get full points for the one we actually completed all the way to the top, and that one is the koalas at 15. The grand total with everything in is 77 points. So now we total up the number of suns based on the setup. So we had over 70 points, so we get 2 suns. We used the A side, so it's another sun, which is 3. And we did not use nature's spirit, so it's another 2. So a total of 5 suns. So a decent result. I've certainly had better, and I'll definitely be putting this one to the table again to try and exceed that by a long shot. You can see there's lots of room to improve on the score. And that, my friends, wraps up the solo gameplay for Harmonies. Had a lot of fun going through this. I played this a number of times off camera, and I'll continue to play this as it's a very quick to set up, quick to play game, and it's really satisfying finding those synergies and combinations between the cards and churning through getting those animals out. And as you can see, depending on how you build things out on your personal board, you can either cap yourself or open yourself up to some really cool combinations of animals getting out there and combinations of points coming from the different types of terrain. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this one, whether you're thinking about picking it up or if you already have it and you're just trying to learn how to play it. I've got you covered with the how to play in the previous game overview and gameplay video, and this one hopefully shows you it in action without any rules explanations as we just dived right in and flew straight through it. Thank you guys again, and as always, keep on rolling solo.